Hi, I'm Jay Boisseau, HPC and AI Technology Strategist at Dell Technologies, and I'm very pleased to share with you today the latest updates on our HPC On Demand project. HPC On Demand is a new project from Dell Technologies designed to address the desire of some customers to use HPC resources in clouds. Before I talk about that, let me share a bit about what we're hearing from customers. We talk to a lot of customers as a global technology leader, and we hear some interests in HPC that sometimes fall into the three bins on this slide. The first bin is that we hear customers say we can't respond fast enough to user demands for HPC. Well, this is music to our ears. As a global leader in providing on-prem HPC solutions, we like to hear that these solutions are fully utilized and that customers are using them for discovery and innovation, and in fact, want more HPC to do more discovery and innovation. But of course, if they want that, they want it soon. They want to be able to deploy new systems soon. And while we have made it very easy to ship customers solutions that can be deployed readily, sometimes there are limitations such as on-prem data center constraints and policy requirements. And that makes it challenging for some of these customers to access as much new capacity on-prem as quickly as they would like. Now, the middle bin is we also hear from customers that they want that extra capacity so quickly, they haven't been able to acquire budget for the necessary full new system or full new data center or major data center upgrades, or for hiring all of the additional staff they might need. This is another set of cases in which customers want more HPC sooner, but don't have the huge jumps in budget that might be needed to build an entirely new data center in which to deploy new on-prem systems. And so they're willing to use off-prem capabilities in an on-demand way until they can complete the budget processes to build a new data center or install a new, larger HPC system. And the third set of categories we hear, and this comes more from customers who have already started using HPC cloud capabilities, we hear that they don't want any budget surprises when they're using public clouds for HPC. Many public clouds charge for data transfers into or out of their clouds, or even both. And they charge for many other aspects of using their clouds. So customers in HPC often want very predictable expectations for what their costs will be for using the cloud with no surprises. So we hear from our customers requests in these three areas, and we also talk to analysts. And analysts ask customers very detailed questions and come up with expectations for a rapidly growing HPC cloud market. For example, on this slide, we show that the current HPC cloud market is projected to be a little over $5 billion in 2021, but almost $9 billion in 2024. And the analysts hear from customers reasons such as I just described, and even more detailed, as you can see on the left slide, the left side of this slide. So sometimes it comes from a desire to move CapEx to OpEx, to pay for HPC usage in a more continuous way, rather than large data center upgrades and large system acquisitions. Sometimes it's for accessing extra capacity quickly or accelerating new projects with extra capacity quickly, as I just talked about on the previous slide. Sometimes it's to access new resource types that they haven't yet purchased and acquired on-prem. Sometimes it's to shift the operational complexity to somebody else, willing to pay a premium for someone else to manage the data center and manage the systems so that they can focus exclusively on using HPC for discovery and innovation. Sometimes it's because much of their organization has already begun shifting from a hardware-centric model to a software-centric model, as is common in the era of cloud computing. And they even want to do that for their HPC applications. And of course, COVID accelerated interest in using clouds for all kinds of computing to keep your staff from having to be in person in data centers during the pandemic. So for all of these reasons, analysts expect the HPC cloud market to grow at over 15% per year and to reach almost $9 billion of HPC usage paid for by customers in public clouds by 2024. Now, this growth rate is even faster than the on-prem revenue in the HPC market. Now, let's be clear. The on-prem HPC market is much larger than the revenue spent on running HPC applications in public clouds. The HPC on-prem market is going to be almost $40 billion in 2024. But the cloud, $8.8 billion in 2024, will become significant. And it's an area in which Dell aspires to be a leader, just as we are in providing servers and storage for on-prem HPC solutions. Now, this slide contains lots of data, so let's break it down slowly. On the left, you see a pie chart, and you see what Hyperion Research projects the public cloud spend to be $8.8 billion in 2024. The units on this slide chart are in millions, so 8.8 billion in 2024. Now, that's still not as big as the on-prem server market for HPC or the on-prem storage market for HPC. Actually, it becomes comparable to that in 2024. There's still markets for services and applications and middleware. So all of the non-public cloud together is a very large on-prem market. But we must be cognizant of the public cloud spend for HPC growing. Now, the bottom center chart shows you that most of that revenue is in the smaller scales, the work group scale, the departmental scale, and the divisional scale. And that is the vast majority of the public cloud HPC usage is for small and mid-size applications that would normally be run on small and mid-size HPC systems. And on the bottom right, you can see the domains that are driving that cloud usage for HPC. Biosciences is clearly the largest spender in public cloud resources for HPC, but computer-aided engineering, CAE, or manufacturing, as many people call it, is also a large vertical for spending on public cloud HPC. And government spending, of course, is also increasing, including defense spending by governments around the world and non-defense spending by governments around the world. But we see all verticals that spend for large amounts of money for HPC on-prem also beginning to spend on cloud usage for HPC, especially at the small and mid-sized scales. Now, this chart represents something different but related. We know that the workloads for HPC are expanding. For 40 or 50 years, the primary workloads for high-performance computing were simulation, including parallel simulation and high-throughput computing. But in the big data era, we've seen the emergence of many more data-driven applications that need HPC solutions to conduct the analyses. We call this high-performance data analytics. And then in the last 7 or 8 years, we've seen the emergence of HPC-based AI calculations. That's often deep learning training models on vast amounts of data using deep neural networks in order to create models that you can infer with very powerful and accurate capabilities against. And that training occurs on HPC systems. So just as cloud usage of HPC resources is a small but growing percent of the HPC market, Data-driven HPC workloads are a small but rapidly growing percentage of the workloads in the HPC space. And these two things are related because the cloud has certainly been a place to enable many kinds of data science and data analytics and data-driven applications. And that's becoming true also for those kinds of applications that need HPC caliber resources. So if you're going to solve the customer requests on the first slide, you want to pay attention to what the customers are doing with their workloads on this slide and make sure that you're planning for cloud HPC resources that are amenable not just to parallel simulation, but also to high performance data analytics workloads and even HPC-based AI workloads. And that leads us to HPC on demand. What is it? Well, it is a pilot project being conducted by Dell Technologies in partnership with VMware, which is currently part of the Dell Technologies portfolio, Intel, and R Systems. So these four companies have come together to create a public cloud style HPC offering that uses HPC infrastructure and is designed for HPC workloads. So to be clear, we are not creating a general purpose public cloud out of this pilot project, but we are creating a public cloud style solution that may be turned into a full-fledged solution offering that is optimized for HPC workloads, including high-performance data analytics and HPC-based AI. Now, what do we mean by that? So HPC on demand needs to solve those customer requests we talked about earlier. So it's an on-demand cloud-style offering that can give customers secure, clean images for each customer, including multiple customers using the infrastructure, not sharing the nodes in the infrastructure, using different nodes, each with clean images, but also getting secure networking connections between the nodes that they're using. So like the current large public clouds, HPC on demand can give a completely private and secure space for the HPC workloads of multiple customers at once. And when a customer's workload finishes, it can replace all of the images with new, secure, clean images for the next user who's using this resource on demand. Now, it's using only HPC optimized infrastructure, Intel Xeon processors, Intel Optane. It's using 100 gigabit per second Ethernet from Dell. It's using HPC software images from our own open source Omnia project, and will also use images from Bright Computing. And it's using optimized VMware-based vHPC configurations. And again, HPC on demand is for HPC workloads. There are no database servers, no email servers, no web servers running on this pilot project. It is being designed, developed, deployed, and operated for HPC workloads, for HPC customers. And that's very important. We're not trying to create a public cloud style offering for all of IT. We are looking at creating something that meets the needs and requests of our HPC customers that we talked about on the first slide, that sometimes need some extra capacity quickly, or maybe need some capacity that has resources that they don't yet have on-prem. And that's what HPC demand is all about. Now, an important piece of this is VMware. All of our industry-leading HPC solutions are on-prem solutions that are bare metal solutions on which you run a Linux operating system and then an HPC software stack. Hopefully something like Omnia, our new open source software stack, or something like Bright Computing, a great partner of Dell Technologies. VMware, you're probably familiar with from the enterprise IT space instead of the HPC space. VMware has a tremendous history in providing virtualization software so that companies can more efficiently and securely use their on-prem IT resources for diverse workloads. So this means that VMware has the capabilities to shuttle in HPC workload images, not just traditional enterprise IT workload images. And they already work with all of the major public cloud providers to run VMware infrastructure on those clouds, also on-prem for private clouds, and can even extend out to the edge. In other words, VMware can provide any kind of cloud environment, on-prem, at the edge, or even in public clouds. It's a very diverse and comprehensive software stack with tremendous amount of experience behind it that makes it robust and secure and usable for so many different kinds of workloads. And it provides lots of operational efficiencies. It can absolutely provide a cloud operating model. It can provide software-defined everything. It can enable hybrid connectivity between different data centers, between your own data centers and public clouds, and all the way out to edges. And it can enable you to harness accelerators so that some of your nodes can have GPUs or other accelerators in them, including in a VMware environment. This enables you to build a cloud-ready platform with VMware. Now, again, Dell is a leader in selling bare metal on-prem HPC solutions. But by bringing VMware into the architecture, as in this diagram, we can start to support many more customers, including unrelated customers, while giving them completely secure spaces and infrastructure, their own access to servers, storage, and networking within that overall environment. And we can do this in an on-demand way so that as new customers bring workloads into this infrastructure, each customer experiences what appears to be their own resources that are clean, secure, and private. And this is very similar to the experience that you've probably had in the past in using public clouds for some kind of enterprise IT workload or other. We are absolutely going to leverage the capabilities of VMware to show that we can support many HPC customers in a cloud type environment and support them all concurrently, but privately and securely. Now, of course, we're architecting this infrastructure for performance. So everything is about performance. When we're using network switches in this, we use different network switches for the VMware traffic than we do for the MPI and other parallel workloads on the HPC side. Now, that's very important. It is not always architected that way in a traditional enterprise data center. But for an HPC cloud, you absolutely must maintain HPC performance, which means you want to minimize congestion on that network for those parallel applications. You need to absolutely minimize usage of those nodes to just the customer's own NPI application. So you're no longer sharing among customers at the node level, but you are using VMware to provide clean images on the nodes a customer sees and to ensure clean private network traffic between those nodes. So we have architected this a little bit differently than a traditional enterprise IT data center using VMware so that we can get the performance benefits that HPC applications need while giving our customers the privacy and security and rapid access that those HPC customers expect from cloud resources. And of course, we're benchmarking for success. One of the questions about VMware and any hypervisor environment is, will it perform as well as bare metal? And the reality is all modern hypervisors have been developed and tuned for performance. And so in addition to providing the tremendous set of capabilities, they can provide that bare metal single Linux OS distros can't necessarily provide. They can also do it with near bare metal performance. and at times matching or even slightly exceeding bare metal performance. And so to confirm that we're getting great performance that approaches bare metal, we're using micro benchmarks, open source applications, and some commercial applications to test the infrastructure in our pilot project to make sure we can deliver to customers the kind of performance they expect on HPC workloads. This slide is a picture of some of the initial infrastructure we've deployed. It's probably already out of date due to new infrastructure by the time you see this, but what it's really meant to show you at a high level is that you can install VMware on top of what looks very much like a traditional HPC cluster. And for a small amount of additional nodes and storage and an additional network, you can provide a VMware managed HPC cluster that looks like an HPC cluster and performs like an HPC cluster, but can be assigned to different customers with different applications securely and with great performance. So how does this differ from our own dedicated bare metal managed services offering? Some of you may be familiar with the fact that in addition to our industry-leading on-prem HPC solutions, we offer, as in the right image here, dedicated managed HPC services. We work with a number of partners to provide HPC infrastructure. One of those partners is our systems. We have many partners in that ecosystem, and it allows us to provide HPC resources that customers can buy or lease over an extended period of time and get all the benefits of dedicated usage, not cloud shared usage. So they do not get the flexible on-demand payment model, but they do get the cost efficiencies of ownership or long-term lease, and they know that they are the sole users of the infrastructure, so they can specify the exact configuration they want. So on the right here are dedicated managed HPC services, especially when provided in partnership between Dell and our systems, look a lot like on-prem in the sense that the customer gets to participate in speccing the HPC solution they want and will pay for. But then they get to outsource the management of the data center and the system itself, so the customer can focus on using that resource for discovery and innovation and not on managing and supporting that resource. That's our dedicated model, and it's a great complement to our on-prem model. HPC on demand on the left here takes some of those things and goes even further. Now the customer is not only not designing and managing the data center, but they're not having to design or even co-design the HPC system. That part is taken care of for them, as well as the management of it. And in return for being one of multiple customers on that now hypervisor-based system, they get much greater flexibility in how they pay for it and how they consume it. They also get some additional abstractions in the sense that they can bring different images with different Linux distributions or even potentially other operating systems. So the left model is the most flexible in payment, the most flexible in usage styles, and it outsources the largest percentage of the effort to other parties that have expertise in data centers and systems, so that as a customer, you get this flexible usage, flexible payment model, and can focus on just achieving the results that you want for your own business or research problems. So we're very proud to now complement our dedicated managed services offering. We hope with a desirable cloud solution type model. Now, again, it's in the pilot phase, although we have some early users, and I'll talk later about how people can get access to it, this pilot project. The deployment scenario is pretty straightforward, and I won't get into this in too much detail now. What I'll just share here is that we have a strong model for how we want to deploy both compute instances and GPU instances, also memory optimized instances and high performance storage. And over time, as we measure customer demand for these kinds of instances, that will help us to grow the resource capabilities in this cloud project so that we always have the right balance of resources to meet different customer needs. Now, we need to provide flexibility and choices, as you see on the left here, for different kinds of environments, as well as these different instances. And so this is going to be an ongoing project to work with customers, understand their evolving needs and the scales of those needs, and to grow our infrastructure with just the right capabilities to support many customers at once, but enable all of them to feel the benefits of an on-demand model. Now, our OEM sales team has already begun taking this pilot project and onboarding customers. So particularly eager customers can get access to this now, even before our HPC solutions team declares it a general purpose public offering. And that's pretty exciting. It's not a common model for us to use at Dell, but we're so eager to provide this capability to early customers who have expressed over and over their desire for such a capability that you can work with our OEM team to talk about pre-deployment, provisioning, onboarding, deployment and benchmarking of your own customer applications, how you'll use it and consume it. We'll talk about the monthly reporting and monthly billing and invoicing and how you can renew that subscription. So for now, as this is in a pilot project phase, hopefully set it for a much broader general deployment, our OEM team will work with you for a more customized experience. It is not identical, of course, to the big public cloud experiences that are very web-driven experiences without much customer support. Our OEM sales team and our systems will provide very direct customer support to make sure you are being onboarded properly and that you never face any surprises, that you're able to get your workloads running well, that you understand the performance they're getting, that you understand exactly how on-demand works and what is being charged and what isn't being charged. You understand the billing process. It's, we think, a much more human way for getting HPC customers using clouds for HPC applications. We have a console that, because this is not a live demo, I can't demo here, but we are constantly evolving this cloud console so that we can provide a graphical environment with a simple to read dashboard so that you know exactly what is available, which of your workloads are running, which have completed, and what the cost of those workloads are. So for this console, I'll encourage you to stay tuned and take the next HPC on-demand training class you see us offering. I will include my contact info at the end of this presentation so that you can email me and ask me when that training may be. And in that, you'll see live demos of this console so you can see just how easy we've already made HPC on demand. And of course, we'll share with you in describing the console how it may evolve in the future. Now, we made some announcements at ISC 21 last summer, and those announcements were about early access to it. So again, it's not a general purpose offering yet. We're evaluating it for that possibility, but it is a limited release offering that, again, the OEM team and our systems can work with you closely to onboard you so that you have a true HPC on-demand capability. We talked about it at ISC 21, and we also talked about some of the customers we've worked with in the HPC managed services offering and in some more custom HPC cloud bursting models as well. So probably the highlight of this slide is for me to share with you that we have worked with customers to deploy managed HPC capabilities, that we can now work with customers to onboard them into a cloud HPC capability, and that we've worked with a number of customers in in-between models as well. One of the things we pride ourselves on at Dell Technologies is the ability to customize solutions for your workloads, for your business problems, for your government missions, and so on. And so with our large portfolio of leading servers, storage, networking, and our large partner ecosystem, we have a tremendous set of tools by which to develop the solution that meets different customers' needs. And with our new managed services offerings and our new cloud project, this gives us additional tools that we can work with even very large customers to provide solutions that meet their needs. Now, a lot of people are talking about this pilot project already, and I assure you no one is more eager than us to see how this evolves, but we have really loved the excitement we've seen this generate. So we get lots of customer interest in HPC on demand. We get lots of questions, and we really think 2022, next year, is going to be a huge year for our HPC managed services offering, and also potentially for our HPC cloud services offering. So the industry is watching, they're excited, and they want to see what we're going to do next. And that leads me to a summary and our opportunities for what we're going to do next. Now, our partnership is building an HPC-focused cloud capability. I hope I have made very clear that we are a world leader in on-prem solutions. We offer managed, dedicated solutions, and we're now exploring cloud solutions. And HPC on demand is our first exploration of Dell providing cloud-type solutions for HPC workloads. And again, for all kinds of HPC workloads, simulation, high-performance data analytics, and AI deep learning model training. It is in a project phase now called a pilot project, but our OEM sales team can also onboard individual customers now. We're going to have some advantages. There is great work done by many cloud companies out there to enable HPC workloads. Our advantages will be that this HPC on-demand capability uses Dell and Intel HPC optimized infrastructure, that it uses VMware features and scalability and reliability to provide a very robust and secure hypervisor-based cloud, and that we're leveraging our partner R Systems that has deep HPC expertise. R Systems doesn't do general enterprise workloads. They focus on HPC and on working with HPC customers, and that's why they're a pilot partner for this project, because they bring such tremendous HPC expertise to this project. Probably the biggest advantages, though, are highlighted in green on this slide. The performance and price performance, we expect to match or exceed these characteristics for every major public cloud for HPC workloads. We are constantly benchmarking and tweaking and tuning and optimizing, because we don't want to let our customers down. If they come to us for a cloud-like HPC experience, we want to make sure the HPC performance is first and foremost meeting their expectations. So when you come to us for a cloud capability that is only for HPC applications, you will be able to have your expectations of HPC performance met in our project. We also will offer HPC support. Anyone who's tried to use any of the big public clouds and get user support for HPC knows that you're pretty much usually just limited to web pages. We want to be able to provide real user support so that you can use our resource most effectively and really get the kinds of performance and capabilities you're expecting for your HPC needs. And most importantly, to many of our customers, there's no data egress fees. Some clouds charge money to move your data out of their clouds. This is a form of lock-in that Dell doesn't do. We want to win on our own merits. You will always be able to move your data into and out of this project and any solutions derived from it without data ingress and egress fees. Now, we suspect you'll want to grow your usage of this capability, but that's entirely up to you and you'll never feel like your data is being held prisoner in the project. And that can reduce all those unwanted billing surprises we talked about on the first slide. There's some great opportunities we have going forward. We want to make this easier to use than any other public cloud for HPC applications. And that's an important point. We're just really getting started on this now, and making things easy takes developers and takes time. But we get the benefit of being able to focus on HPC customers and HPC workloads. And that means we can tune the user experience just for them. And that gives us an advantage in not having to make interfaces for huge numbers of workloads, but to really focus on high performance computing. And in doing so, we think we can make it an incredibly easy to use HPC cloud. We also, of course, are going to explore all of the very fast technologies that we already use in our on-prem solutions. You're probably familiar with all of those already. Some of those are being evaluated, and we can share with you under NDA. But as this project evolves, we hope that it will embrace the fastest of the technologies that we're evaluating for on-prem use to be potentially used in our managed services and cloud services models. It also should enable us to add new technologies quickly and bring them to you quickly. As we have partners established to provide these kinds of capabilities, they can acquire new capabilities very quickly because they've already got data center relationships and capacity, and plug them directly into the system so that users can very rapidly get access to new kinds of technologies in this resource. And finally, of course, you might have already guessed it, we would be interested in integrating solutions like this with our on-prem solutions. Now, that's not a commitment or a roadmap promise, but of course, it's an absolute desire, because what we really aspire to is this slide. On-prem solutions leadership, which we already have, that's on the left. Colo and managed solutions, which we now have in the middle, and these new HPC on-demand types of solutions on the right. And that means we'll be able to work with customers and determine, do you want dedicated usage? Then it's probably on-prem or managed services. Do you want more flexible payment models? Then it is probably managed services or cloud services. Do you have HPC staff and data center capacity? Then it's probably on-prem. Do you want to outsource the staffing and the data center operations? Then it's the managed services or the cloud services. And what we'd really like to be able to do is combine these kinds of resources in innovative ways for customers who want more than one of these. Now, again, this is not roadmap or committed yet. Please arrange a meeting with us so we can talk to you under non-disclosure agreement about where we think we're headed with these kinds of things, and also about what you want. We want to be driven by your customer requirements. I started this presentation by what we hear from customers. We'd love to talk to you individually, privately, about what you want in the years ahead, so that we can explore which of these kinds of solutions make the most sense for you and make the most sense to integrate potentially into Dell's future Apex plans that I will let your customer account executives share with you. But that's where we're going. That's what we care about. We hope to have lots more to share with you publicly in the months ahead. But again, this is all still a pilot project with some early user access enabled by our OEM sales team. And so we encourage you to reach out if you want to learn more. We're happy to answer any of your questions. We'd be happy to have very focused, dedicated meetings with you. Thank you for allowing me to share all of this. I realize it's in the early days and there's some things that we can't quite share yet and some decisions that we haven't made yet. But in talking with you and answering your questions, that will help us to advance these kinds of solutions faster and make them better and meet more of your needs. Thank you very much. Very pleased to share all of this with you today, and I hope to hear from many of you soon. Thanks.